It's going to push you into sympathetic because your body's always in fight or flight. So you're going to be more snappy. And that was me. When I was sick, I mistreated my parents. I was mean. And I was this super Christian before that, happy go Jesus. And I was just, I couldn't be nice because I was so irritated. No matter how hard I tried, either I would non-verbally be saying, I want to rip your face off because of the sounds, because of the feelings. This is why I have a heart for autistic children,
Mm.
because they're inflamed, they're irritated, and some of them are nonverbal, so they can't even express the pain that they're feeling. At least I was an adult and I could express my pain. I could at least get some of it out. They don't have that opportunity. So back in the day when I worked in a clinic, I remember sitting down with autistic kids and I'd be in tears because I'm like, I know how you feel. Neurotoxic mediated illness. They're suffering with it. I'm suffering with it. And it does change behavior.
If you're overwhelmed with chronic health symptoms and still don't have answers, you're not alone. I'm Dr. Jaban, and on Redefining Wellness with Dr. Jaban, we'll be exploring root causes like Lyme disease, mold, and parasites, and I'll guide you with simple and practical steps towards real healing. Warren, thank you for coming to talk with me today. Something that's so important to me is getting the word out about the environment, the toxicities, and you being an environmental scientist. And honestly, your handle of non-toxic dad as a new father it's so meaningful to me. So I'm really excited to talk to you just about what can I do for my son day to day? What can I do for my family day to day to make sure that they're being healthy? And knowing you for now, I mean, what's it been, 10 years?
At least, yeah.
I just know how driven and you are for this mission to get the word out for families. And I wanted to make sure that I help support that mission today. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, it's going to be great to be here. You know my story. Not everyone here does, but got sick cleaning up as an environmental scientist, got my master's degree in Montana, went on to be an environmental scientist, environmental geologist, and cleaned up a bunch of hazardous waste. Eventually, after a whiplash accident, which fires a lot of inflammation in your body, mercuric oxide cleanup I was doing at the time. I also did all kinds of cleanups of heavy metals, federal use defense sites, like nasty stuff. But between and you're a chiropractor, but that inflammatory response from a whiplash, I forget some of the chemicals that fire NMDA receptors. There's lots of things that can happen. It also can shift your hormones quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have trauma like that. So that storm of between cleaning up toxins, physical trauma, some emotional trauma, uh, I got very sick to where I had to leave Montana. I was kind of a Northwest, hunter guy, Northwestern PA. So I'm living this amazing life, a leader in the church, thinking I was doing all the right things and then losing it all and moving into my parents' basement, which is mold, which you're an expert in. My symptoms went from a 5 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 to where I couldn't go for a walk. I didn't have any feeling of joy. 210 pounds, obese, suffering to the core of where I wanted to take my own life, knowing that I couldn't because inside of me there was that little glimmer of hope. And I hope that this podcast gives lots of people that are suffering from toxicities, because you just saw me get off stage. You said, Warren, come speak at the CPK event and talk to them about this stuff. And foundationally, I believe toxicity is at the root cause of many of the challenges we face today and how it's linked to so many different things, because they're immunosuppressive, because it's a massive link to autoimmune conditions, because it's massively linked to destroying your microbiome, which uh, is the fingerprint of our health. Unhealthy microbiome, unhealthy person, diabetic microbiome, diabetic person, healthy athlete microbiome like yours, your microbiome is going to match. It'll be different. It'll be unique, but it'll be healthy. It'll be diverse, and toxins destroy that. So toxins are a foundational issue that are robbing and stealing life. And I'm hopefully give some folks at least some tips on how to avoid a lot of the toxins that are in our world today.
Absolutely. I was just doing some research coming into this conversation because I wanted to make sure that I had some numbers straight. It's 80,000 chemicals come in the United States every single year. 6 out of 10 Americans are chronically ill today. A third of the United States has diabetes. And when I was going through this and I was just looking at it, diabetes itself, we think of this as sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was looking at things like all these endocrine disruptors, all
Hmm.
this plastic that we're swimming in,
Hmm.
it showed a 7.5 times increase in risk for diabetes when you were in the highest quintile of plastic in your body.
That's a new stat for me, but it's not even close to being surprising.
So, do you think things like diabetes and all of these hormone issues are genetic, or are these things actually toxin derived?
The research would support me in saying that many of these conditions are toxin induced, could be the biggest factor in your life. For example, autoimmune conditions. 30% of autoimmune are genetic related. The rest, environmental toxins, gut dysbiosis, dietary related, and viral infections. Toxins affects your gut microbiome, which is going to cause gut dysbiosis. So toxins, environmental toxins, your food, if you're eating toxic food, so petroleum based
Mm,
food colorings, so it's toxins, and then viral infections. Well, toxins are highly immunosuppressive. So once again, toxins. So you could say that 70% of autoimmune triggers are environmental. They're toxin
mm,
derived. Same thing with insulin resistance. And the reason those stats are showing that is because toxins, like you said, endocrine disrupting compounds, they come in and block the cellular receptors so that your body can't hear insulin. They literally block on the cells, organs, and tissues. And so, therefore, you have toxin induced insulin resistance. And they're seeing this now in children. Uh, Anecdotal evidence, I'm not, saying anything, but I have multiple friends. Their kids got diabetes after a vaccination. I don't know how
mm.
that could be. I don't know the science behind it necessarily, besides the mercury, because it is a blunter. But we're seeing diabetes in children really, really young age. I believe, and other experts believe, that it's toxin induced. And the medical doctor actually I was sitting next to was like the third or fourth. And I'm talking a guy that rents off my dad's trailer who drinks beer and smokes cigarettes, right? Said, my daughter was fine. We went in, she got a vaccine, she started getting sick. We find out she has diabetes. I says, I believed it was that, right? So I get a lot of that. I haven't done a deep dive on, but I know that mercury is a big cause of it. The medical doctor, same thing. Um, so there are these links. It's in the literature. I'm not saying it's vaccines, but they have toxins in them, right? They challenge your immune system sometimes in ways that can drive autoimmunity as well, and insulin resistance can be autoimmune condition. So if you tie it up all in a bow, absolutely toxins. I mean, hyperthyroidism. One of the main causes of hyperthyroidism is the receptors not being able to hear the hormone.
Mhm.
And what's the number one thing that blunts those hormones? Toxins. So these hormone disrupting toxins, and we're like you said, swimming in them.
A topic that I keep coming to mind with when I'm talking to patients is this neurotoxic loop. And I even went so far as to put together like a presentation on neurotoxic loop because I'm just going, what is happening with the people that I'm working with? They're all anxious and stressed and irritable. They have brain fog. They're dealing with degenerative diseases. And then you have all these other people that are toxic.
Hmm.
And you've got one group that's going, I want to do nervous system work because it's the trauma in my life that's triggering this. You got the other group that it's the toxins and the environment. They're making me feel sick. That's leading to these symptoms. I was like, you're not going to get better without either one. You've got to calm the body and get rid of the toxins.
Hmm.
And one or the other is not the option. You have to do both. Are you seeing toxins triggering a significant amount of mental health struggle?
Literature would say yes. Not just my opinion, but peer-reviewed literature links toxins to all kinds of hormone dysregulation, right? So therefore, cortisol, for example, right? You could have higher cortisol in your body because you're blunting those receptors, and it literally throws everything out of whack. I mean, all the way up to your hypothalamus pituitary. You're messing with hormones like melanocyte stimulating hormone, which is like a chief hormone in your body. So toxins aren't just this, oh, it's no big deal, just a little bit of toxins, but we're getting cut by a thousand razor blades and we're bleeding profusely from our bodies because we're getting overwhelmed. And, if you look at the science, any type of inflammatory condition, Insulin resistance can cause behavioral challenges, lack of focus, brain inflammation from fragrances in schools, fragrances in your home is going to cause your brain to be inflamed and irritated. So you're going to be irritated. It's going to push you into sympathetic because your body's always in fight or flight. So you're going to be more snappy. And that was me. When I was sick, I mistreated my parents. I was mean. And I was this super Christian before that, happy go Jesus. And I was just, I couldn't be nice because I was so irritated. No matter how hard I tried, either I would non-verbally be saying, I want to rip your face off because of the sounds, because of the feelings. This is why I have a heart for autistic children,
Mm.
because they're inflamed, they're irritated, and some of them are nonverbal, so they can't even express the pain that they're feeling. At least I was an adult and I could express my pain. I could at least get some of it out. They don't have that opportunity. So back in the day when I worked in a clinic, I remember sitting down with autistic kids and I'd be in tears because I'm like, I know how you feel. Neurotoxic mediated illness. They're suffering with it. I'm suffering with it. And it does change behavior, and toxicities are linked to autism as well. It's one of the factors. I'm not going to get into the debate. What's worse? What's this? The political BS that's going on. We know toxins are definitely a part of it, right? We know genetics are a part of it. What we do know is if we can eliminate some of these toxins, these children can rest and relax and recover more quickly.
If you're exhausted, fog you're feeling off, and nothing you've tried has helped, it could be deeper. Mold, Lyme, and hormone issues are often hiding in the root, and you're not alone. Let me tell you about Sunlighten, an in-home infrared sauna system with options that fit up to 4 people. Sunlighten helps your body to heal at the source. It supports deep detoxification, calms chronic inflammation, restores energy, and brings back your system into balance. It's gentle, effective, and something you can do right at home. No appointments, no side effects, just a calming daily ritual backed by 25 years plus of patented, clinically trusted infrared innovation. Whether you're navigating a chronic condition or simply just want clearer skin, better sleep, and more vitality, there's a Sunlighten sauna that fits your space and your goals. If that sounds like the kind of support you've been looking for, visit sunlighten.com and use code Dr. Jaban to save up to $1,400 on your sauna, because real healing starts within. Yeah, health's not political. Health is absolutely not political. It is physiological. There's science behind it. You just got to figure out what in the world is going on, keep an open mind, and that is how we're going to get anywhere with this. Because I don't care what political view is out there. We got a sick country with sick people, and we got to figure out how to help them out. But
you have to admit, some of the videos, you haven't posted this on your video, neither do I, because we're just trying to cast a wide, loving net to reach all people. But people are not following, acetaminophen's guidelines or Tylenol's guidelines, and are so mad at the political system because of what's going on, and the politics around it. They're literally taking on video in protest just to say, hey, we think you're full of crap, even though the company itself says don't take while pregnant, right? So it's interesting how we say that, but we make decisions. When you make a decision in emotion and your sympathetic response, it's usually going to be a bad decision. Think about that. You're fighting with your wife, you're laying into each other, and afterwards you're like, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I said that. It's because psychologically, when you're in emotion, you're making decisions in a fight or flight state, and you're going to say and do whatever you can to survive and feel well. So before you make a decision to take something that's going to hurt you or your body, make sure you're in a parasympathetic state. Make sure you're clear-minded and not in a rage, so you don't hurt yourself, a baby, or someone you love.
when you think about it, emotions are triggered by chemicals in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And inflammation is technically a chemical of sorts in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that chemicals affect the body because there's the really popular one called alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows you make bad choices when you have alcohol.
Yeah.
So if you allow these other chemicals to affect what you're going to do, what do you expect? So that's why you're saying parasympathetic is where you're in a rested, stable, balanced state, allowing for your body to just wash away so much of that forcible nature
Hmm.
that's human. It's human, and I'm not taking away that it's human,
We're all human. We're all stinking human.
but come on, like, I mean, trust me, I played football, I've done sports, I've done a lot of things where you getting going like, yeah, 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 and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, that was a really bad idea.
Yeah.
That was a terrible idea. And that's why I said health is not political because, every 4 years we change whatever's happening out there, but your body, you get one.
Yeah.
And there is
Well said.
there is no in 4 years you can swap it out or 8 years you can swap it out. It's it's a singular thing that you were given. And every single time they try to swap in new parts to a human body, at least in my experience, it's not better.
No, it causes inflammation. Your body will reject any plastic, metal. There's no way around it. And so people that have weak genetics, you get breast implants, you're going to be sick.
Hmm.
You're going to have 3 or 4 of the 5 bad methylation genes, right?
Hmm.
And so we don't test for that. We don't test for that before we do any type of surgery. None of it. So we don't know. It's crapshoot. Get a knee replacement, you could have more knee pain.
Yeah. I've got a story for you on that one. You'll love this. Titanium, right? It's a
Mhm.
supposedly inert
Yeah, supposedly it's not.
and good biological replacement for your tissue. And first of all, I haven't ever met anyone that's like, yeah, my new knee is better than the original, unless they were born with a deformity. You don't get a knee replacement, shoulder replacement, and go, man, that's better than when I was 20.
Hmm.
Like, that's not a thing. So secondly, when you put a foreign object in your body, it's foreign. Your body recognizes it to be foreign. So being in practice for over a decade now, I've got the opportunity because I'm just simply open minded. I never tell people no, that's not possible.
Hmm.
I'm like, based on my experience, maybe that's not a thing, but I'm not going to tell you absolutely no, that's not possible unless it's just way out there. And I had an experience when I was first in training. My aunt comes to me with a knee that's red and inflamed.
Hmm.
And she had had surgery a couple years earlier to put a titanium kneecap into titanium patella. And it just hadn't been right since, and it kept getting worse and worse inflamed, and there was no answers, and the drugs weren't working anymore. And she's like, "What's going on?" So I'm sitting there checking her, and I'm doing some different types of testing. I do Western medicine testing. I love running labs. I do Eastern medicine testing, looking at acupuncture points, tongue diagnosis, pulse diagnosis, do different muscle testing. And we identified that she was actually having an autoimmune reaction because her body did not recognize the patella as being her own tissue. So it just recognized a foreign object. So it kept her inflamed in her knee and across her entire body the whole time it was in there. Now we were able to do some homeopathy and give her some a titanium homeopathy that actually brought down the irritation.
Hmm.
And I didn't think about that for another 10 years. I had a woman come back into my practice. We call her, well, she called herself Senior Barbie.
Hmm.
She was 69 years old. She got breast cancer. Another thing that was tied directly to toxins, but different topic. Um, Breasts were removed. The cancer was. She at 69 was like, you know what? I'm gonna get implants put back in. That's her choice. So she called herself Senior Barbie. So she's a fun person. You
Yeah.
can tell, like personality, she's just great.
Hmm.
Long, silver, beautiful hair. She breaks her hand. She goes to her surgeon. They put a plate on it, titanium.
Hmm.
She comes into my office and it's got this huge bubbled up skin area that's irritated. I gave her that same titanium I pulled off the shelf that had been sitting there for a year, then the homeopathy pellets. It went down. She went to her surgeon, said, I want this thing out of here. He said, that's not possible. That didn't happen. Well, in the fashion of your Spitfires, she stopped taking it. Her hand bubbled up. She barged back into his office, and I respect the man. He said, can I have his card?
Hmm.
And she started taking it again, went down, and eventually she had that removed. But titanium is a metal that is in the body that is a foreign object
Hmm.
that is problematic, and we think it's not. And that's one
It's mind blowing.
that's one that's not necessarily even thought of as being bad, much less arsenic and mercury and lead and all these other things. But you said something earlier I really want to tap into.
Let's go.
You said that the accumulation of all of these toxins is like 1,000 knives or 1,000 razor blades, is what you said.
Mhm.
Is there research out there to show the accumulation of different toxins actually compiling to be as bad as a bunch of one?
No. So they have these back in environmental science days, right? When I was a hazardous waste cleanup, we had what's called PELs, permissible exposure limit. As long as you're below that, and it doesn't cause. Then they have LDL, which is lethal dose. So those are bad. So we have to watch those. But as long as you're below the PELs or your weekly exposure or your daily exposure average, you're fine. However, if you look at something like lead, if you get those levels up high enough, you'll get blood levels. And children, for one, have a 50 times more absorption of heavy metals like lead through their gut. Children's skin up until the age of I think it's fully 21, but definitely below 12, you're absorbing twice as much through the skin barrier. So no matter how you slice it, the amount of lead can exceed levels, even with the products we're doing it. For example, if your mercury amalgam fillings, so they're safe in your mouth, but if I drank some of this hot coffee over here and I stuck a meter in your mouth, it would exceed air quality standards by at least 50 times. But that's allowed. But it would shut down a school. It would shut down this hotel. But we're allowed to put it in your mouth. It would literally have to, if you broke a mercury light bulb, you have to shut the school down because you have a toxic substance. It's mercury. It's hazardous waste before it goes in your mouth, treated as hazardous waste. When it's in your mouth, it's safe. When it comes out, it's hazardous waste. And again, we'd have to run a toxicity characterization leaching procedure on it called a T-clip. This is what you have to do with hazardous waste. That's what you have to do. They shake it up and they do a weak acid to simulate what the environment would do to it. So you could see how many toxins it would leach into the environment. And of course, amalgam fillings will have to be in a special landfill because they're going to leach toxins. So they have a special procedure. They have to seal it off, all the things. So coming back to your point, I wish, and this is what everybody does when it comes to drinking a diet soda, you'd have to drink 20 diet sodas to cause cancer. You'd have to drink, you'd have to eat, 1,000 Fritos for that food coloring to be linked as a carcinogen. But if you add it all up and you add the amount of lead that you're breathing a ton of lead each and every day. We're breathing a quarter and eating a half credit card's worth of plastic, which contains BPA phthalates. You're not adding that in. You're not adding that most standard lotions and potions today are 50% plus petroleum-based toxins that are hormone disruptive. So put it this way. In America, everything since the Industrial Revolution, we've gotten away from nature and we've got into chemicals. Chemicals are mass-produced, they're standardized, and you're able to just pump them out at low cost. Driving down cost, increasing profit. So from clothing, it's way cheaper to make a polyester clothes than it definitely is wool, than it definitely is cotton. Even cheap pesticide-sprayed regular cotton is, 2 to 3 times more expensive than a polyester shirt in general for the similar quality. So we choose the fake and chemical for the real. And your t-shirt that's made of plastic can contain BPA, formaldehyde. There's lawsuits over this stuff, Lululemon, Nike, phthalates, forever chemicals to make them shed water. And they're not adding all this stuff up. So if you start adding it all up, I bet you we could hit some, get above some PELs, but the synergistic effect of all the blunting, neurotoxic, and hormone disrupting chemicals are literally robbing humanity of experiencing health and connection with themselves, with God, and with their families. That's why we're on this mission, both of us.
You just said something to me that struck, and I had to even write it down. It's like, man, how many companies, major companies, are being sued for plastics? Was it Apple? You just said Nike and Lululemon. I mean, it's just incredible. Ziploc right now.
Ziploc, yeah.
Like the number of companies that are in lawsuits for toxins, and yet people are still going out going, oh, it's fine. It's fine. Because marketing dollars are way higher for the companies to keep going than anything else.
Like glyphosate, I think they've spent 10 billions in lawsuits, but it's less expensive for them to file those lawsuits than they are to remove glyphosate. They removed it from the user, like us at Home Depot, but industry is still using it. They're still not just spraying it for its intended use. It's also a registered patented antibiotic that Monsanto has, by the way, because it destroys bacteria through the shikimate pathway. Why it's destroying the earth. And there's no arguing this, and it's destroying our microbiome. There's no arguing it, but we're still using it. We have the green movement, but why on both sides? Why aren't they eliminating glyphosate? Whether it's because it's destroying, if we have the movements that we have right now, why aren't they getting rid of, like they're talking about it, with RFK, he's talking about it.
He is. They're trying to force a law through in the Senate that is protecting these companies. Not RFK, but some other senators are trying to push it through
because they know that that it's coming.
Yeah, they're trying to push through a immunity clause for these companies, so they cannot be sued for these pesticide companies.
Well, this is what they did for medications, certain medications. We won't even mention them on this show. There's immunity, and it's like, hey, we're gonna. And here's the thing: when it comes to these things, glyphosate is actually a decently expensive chemical, but some of the other medications, we're talking pennies per injection, but that they can charge the insurance $300 to $400. So you're taking, think about this, guys, 300% markup. One of the most profitable medications, and whether you sit on the side if they're helpful or not, is vaccines. They're one of the most profitable drugs out there. So you can, if you have the money and you can invest into it and get it approved, it's a cash cow for you.
Forever, with no liability.
With no liability. So, I mean, that's the facts. And then if you talk about that, you get canceled. It's like, go ahead, do what you want. Put in breast implants. I don't care. I have friends with that. I have friends that do Botox. I have friends that vaccinate. I could care less. But tell us the truth. Let us know the numbers. We have an uninformed audience in America that doesn't realize the profit margins here. And they're doing what businesses do. And any business does it this way. Hopefully, some of these smaller businesses, like Name Marie, who's making non-plastic clothes, I don't get any commission, neither do you, but they do a great job. Has very little elastin, very little spandex. It's like 90, and they lowered it. It used to be like 10%. Now it's like only 7%. And it still makes your butt look good. You should have wore those on your video, by the way, instead of those toxic ones. You could have some.
Those toxic ones have off-gassed for like 2 decades, from back when I was a track athlete.
I used to wear those were track pants.
Those are track pants.
I can see your shorts on there, and then you shot put, right?
Oh, shot put, discus, javelin. Yeah, I pulled those out of a drawer. I'm like, how do I still have these?
I remember those. Those are the fancy ones. They're really shiny.
You know what? They may not even be nearly as plastic as what we think, because they were made in 2000.
Yeah, they might not be as nasty.
There's people listening right now that weren't born in 2000. But all right, so, it's just so interesting to me. So I think in analogies, because I talk to patients every day, right? So I'm still actively in practice. And what I'm thinking about to myself is, how do we make this make sense? So let's get out your penny jar. And I don't know about you, but when my parents had a penny jar when I was a kid, it wasn't all just pennies. Sometimes, somebody throw something else in there, quarter, a nickel, a dime. So let's throw a little bit of thimerosal in there, which is mercury from vaccines, and some aluminum, which you're getting about 250 micrograms of aluminum and a Hep B vaccine at birth. Let's just start there. So there's aluminum. By the way, if you have more than 25 micrograms in an IV, it's got to be thrown away. So too much. So we start throwing that in there, and then you go and throw in some other things. We throw in some BPA and some arsenic and some uranium from the water supply, and some phthalates and plastics from the clothes that you're wearing, and some formaldehyde from the furniture. And you could take it and take another laundry list down the path of Botox and breast implant silicone illnesses and acrylates and which comes from fingernail polish. And as you keep throwing this stuff in there, it's not like there's just one penny in a penny jar. There's thousands, but eventually it gets full. And when that penny jar fills up, that's when your bucket filled, and now you have symptoms, and now it breaks you.
Yeah.
It breaks over that barrier, and now you get an autoimmunity. You get an autistic kid. You get pans and pandas, and not everybody's jar is the same, right? My parents had this like giant jar.
I remember you got that jar.
I remember going.
I got a tiny jar.
Yeah, I remember I was like 13. I went in there and I like tipped it over. I took a few. I was like, they're not going to notice. Nobody told my parents.
Yeah,
they still don't know. But some people got the little jars, right? Like,
Mhm.
so if you're genetically not gifted in detox, you got a tiny jar.
Mhm.
If you're that guy that's robust, you might have a big jar.
We just move it through. Yeah.
So if your husband is like, I don't feel the mold, I don't feel the toxins, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not getting a headache from that scent. I refuse to walk into
Pooping and peeing and breathing it out fast,
yes.
and you're not.
And you're not if you don't feel good, but I refuse to go into those like Bath and Body Works. I refuse to go in there because I'm just like, I just like all the smell, and I just know how toxic it is. I don't get a headache from it. Some people do. I'm like, I hold my
Mhm.
breath when I even walk by it at this point in life because I just know too much. But hopefully it helps you understand what we're talking about
Yeah.
with all these toxins, because just go look at your water supply. Go to ewg.org for their water database. There's 4 to 20 toxins in there, and they're all below the EPA level, which, by the way, have you ever researched where the EPA level comes from?
I haven't.
How much money they can spend to remove it? Has nothing to do with your physiology. It has to do with, well, I mean, a few of them are cancer causing, but a lot of them are, well, this is as much as we could get removed financially using the technology that we can implement into the water
Water treatment
treatment.
plants. Yeah.
That's it. It's
And
money.
they still can't get rid of pharmaceutical drugs. They
Nope.
can't get rid of the glyphosate. They can't get rid of
PUFAs.
the forever chemicals. Yep.
And 170 million Americans are drinking radioactive water. 170 million, half of the country. And I go to test your hair and I just find it full. And then I'm like, ooh. And then I go and test your mitochondria. They don't work anymore. And by the way, if you're wondering what mitochondria are, I know I talk about it on this podcast quite often, but mitochondria are, one thing is they're considered the powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
They also make your hormones. They also help to control your immune system. And when they get pissed off because they have too many toxins, it gets in the electron transport chain, it throws off the polarity. So like they're magnets and they're moving electrons through, and it allows for you to make energy. And when those magnets are getting thrown off, like uranium and lead and arsenic, you don't make ATP very well. So then they go into cell danger response and they say, halt everything, attack. I need to defend myself until I can detox. In the world we live in, if you're not making decisions based off of toxins, there's no chance to detox.
Yep. And if you look at my symptoms, even though I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, they gave me 10 different doctors, Effexor, especially then when I got sick in 2005, like none of this really existed. There might be a couple quacks that were out there, but there was no way I was listening to them. Chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, multiple medical doctors, psychologists, the local medical doctor, and he couldn't answer any questions. He's like, I was scared because I'm like, I'm 25 and you have no idea what's wrong because my blood work was normal, looked fine. But I'm like, do you realize like I can barely drive here? That's how freaked out my body is. And you can't tell me what's wrong. And then you give me a little bit of hope with a psychotropic drug and some pain meds because I had so much chronic pain. And then you go back a month later and I was hoping that he would have something new. Is like 5% better, And he's like, well, good. You'll be on 1 or 2 meds. Most people are on 3 or 4. You're set. And I said, how long do I take in the rest of your life? I'm like, I did not take that answer. I'm like, there's no freaking way. And I used to think a medical doctor was smart, like that he would actually went to school to learn how to cure and heal, right? No, they're not taught how to cure and heal in most general practice. They're taught how to give you a medication for symptoms that covers it, that's petroleum based, that's toxic to your body, that actually long term works against your healing. It's insanity. And you're told you're crazy if you tell that truth. And it's a truth, it's an undefensible truth. You can't defend that statement. You can say you're helping people feel better. In some cases, it's necessary and it's an emergency. Yes, I agree with all that. Sure. But it's not fixing the problem. It's not getting to the root cause. Getting to the root cause, toxicity, you're parasympathetic, getting back into nature. We're disconnected from nature. Everything in this room is fake. If your clothing's fake, if you have the water's fake because it's polluted and toxic, if your air's fake because there's microplastics and toxins in it, you're getting all this furniture is off-gassing volatile organic compounds that are carcinogenic, hormone disruptive. You have the fake floor that has glues in it and the furniture, MDF board with formaldehyde, carcinogenic, other volatile organic compounds, and it's all fake. And all the fake, your body's not evolved or created, however you believe, to deal with the fake. We are meant to be in synergy and relationship with the frequency of nature, with grounding, with sunshine, the things we're told not to use, with not flickering LED lights. They flicker, it messes with their neurology, also causing stress. You're not getting infrared frequencies that drive the mitochondria, that drive that transport train. You need infrared light. You need near infrared NIR, which is from sunshine. You can buy devices, but nothing's better than the sun because it's full spectrum. A sun doesn't flicker. These LED lights, we put slow motion on them, they're all flickering. I was sitting there working on my talk. I'm like, why am I freaking getting a headache? I can show you my phone. So I did slow motion, and the light that was right in front of me that's on one of these desks, well, you don't have the same one I do. It's like just trashing my brain, and it's causing inflammation. It was giving me a headache. I turned it off, stopped. I didn't get a headache. So we're living in the fake. We're living in the cheap. We're living in the chemical. We're living in on a system because our economy is based on oil, and that system is driving our economy. It's chemicals that are in our pharmaceuticals, in our clothes, in our furniture, because they're all made of plastics. So all this is driving that economic engine. Woo, America, we're rich, but we're being robbed because our bodies are not able to deal with that level of toxicity. We're not able to deal with glyphosate. Our bodies can't use any of it. We can't use the lead. We can't use the mercury. And yeah, some of this stuff is natural in the environment, but it's very, very small. So guys, if you're listening, how do you get well? Get closer to nature, get closer to God, get back into the frequencies, get grounding, get into sunlight, drink clean water, breathe clean air as much as possible. Get in loving relationships, do breath work, get back into your parasympathetic, your rest and digest and heal frequency, get deep sleep so your liver can detox, does that and deep sleep so that your lymphatic system, so you don't build up beta amyloid proteins and get Alzheimer's. You need that lymphatic rinse at night. It also rinses out the toxins, and your liver and kidneys can deal with it. You have built-in systems to deal with the endogenous toxins. You can deal with a certain amount of environmental toxins, but you're so overwhelmed, like you said, weak genetics, you store these toxins in your fat cells when you get overwhelmed because your liver and kidneys can't deal with them. And then eventually that bucket overfills, your body doesn't have anywhere to put those toxins anymore. Then you start circulating these toxins. Now they're not being stored away. They're attaching to hormones. They're causing more hormone disruption. They're causing more cellular senescence in those zombie cells that you said that fire inflammation in your body. So you have cellular senescence as a protection mechanism from toxins. The problem is, and it stops apoptosis, it stops the cell death of that toxic cell. Your body's trying to get rid of it, but now you're building up a bunch of toxic senescent cells. That is linked to cancer. And then it's like a rotten apple. Once you have these rotten zombie cells, that zombie infects the next good cell because it's shooting out inflammatory signaling, and then you have another nasty cell, and it rottens the whole batch. That's what I was. The good news is, here's the good news, is your body, about every 7 years, you'll turn over all those cells. So if you start doing things correctly, start removing the toxins, start getting your mitochondria back online so that you can detox. You need 4-ATP to make a glutathione. You need all that energy. You need ATP to sleep. The mitochondrial, getting your mitochondria back, getting out in the sunshine, sweating, this is a recent study that I read, a significantly higher levels of heavy metals are excreted through exercise-induced sweating as a sauna. And I'm a big sauna guy. I use it in the winter, but in the summer I don't have to because I'm in the sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grounding. I'm in the garden. My shirt's off. Like, we got to get back to nature. We got to, the movement right now is called rewilding. And we need to rewild ourselves, reconnect ourselves to nature. So as you make this connection, as your body is now duplicating healthy cells because you're eating grass-fed meat that's in synergy with nature 4-to-1. It's eating the microbes and the things that it needs to get into the milk, right? That get into us. That's why raw is so good. It's crazy to me that raw milk is so healing. Yes, it can be contaminated, but so can so many other things, and we're going to stop using it. It's like, we better stop driving. That's one of the most, that causes more death than anything. But anyway, so as you rebuild yourself, as you make decisions each and every day to get healthier, your body's going to respond by creating a healthy cell. And the more health cells that you have, it's an upward spiral of health because you're getting the ATP, you're getting the energy, you're getting a good cell membrane that's made of 4-to-1 ratio of oils versus freaking canola oil that your body can't even use, that causes inflammation. There's no, the science on that stuff is crap. And if it is a good, healthy oil, you might get a sunflower oil that's not industrial, that's not extracted with hexane, that's not bleached so it doesn't stink anymore. So it's not filtered 14 times so you can actually put it in a bottle and it not rot. Like, it's crazy. But if you give your body the things that are close to nature, chickens that are outside in the sun, eating the right things, eating bugs, eating grass, getting sunshine, and start eating the things that are from nature instead of not from nature, which are sitting in a pen that keeps them dark so they lay more eggs, so they make more money, feeding them glyphosate sprayed grain. Man, I'm going off, right? You start eating the real shit, your life is going to transform, you're going to heal, you're going to turn over your cells, and in 7 years, you're not going to recognize what you look like, how you feel, how you connect with yourself, with others, with nature, with God. It'll literally transform your freaking life. Do it. Get closer to God. Eat things that are closer to God. Wear things that are closer to God in nature, and you'll transform your life. It's that simple.
You can be poor in health, and you can be rich in toxins. You get a choice in this world. And
Truth.
as you were saying, in the United States here, we feel like we're rich because we got stuff. And we keep buying crappier and crappier and crappier stuff.
It's getting worse.
It's all the time. Fast fashion, I mean, I remember
cars.
fast car. Yeah. I remember when I was younger though, I was like looking at furniture. I was like, man, like everybody wants to change their furniture every couple of years. So why buy nice stuff? I remember thinking that when I was younger, like, why did my parents want all this like oak and, this old stuff? I get it now. I get it. It's quality.
Yeah.
It's craftsmanship. It's long lasting. It's also not junk toxic. So, Warren, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me today. I mean, you are a force of nature, as everyone just heard, when you get on a roll, which is why you are popping off on every place that you are posting in content. So where can people find you?
Non-Toxic Dad, across all social, just one word, Non-Toxic Dad, nontoxicdad.com. And my new podcast, it's releasing in 6 weeks, so I don't know when this is going to release, but Non-Toxic Living, we're going for it. We want to really create a movement. We want people to join this movement. Non-Toxic Living will be the podcast, so you can check that out.
Go check them out. Thanks for joining me.
It's been awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to Redefining Wellness with Dr. Jaban. If this episode spoke to you, please follow and share this podcast with someone who is ready to take control of their chronic health symptoms. Also, please consider leaving a review. It helps more people find the show. See you here again.